The moment Ethan Cole's eyes met his boss's bare skin at that nightclub entrance, his entire world stopped. Claire Reynolds, the ice queen of Morrison and Associates, the woman who'd fired 3 people that week alone, stood frozen in a wardrobe malfunction, her dress strap broken, her expression shifting from shock to mortification to something dangerous. Their eyes locked. 1 second, 2, 3. Then recognition blazed across her face like wildfire. Monday morning was going to be a nightmare. Or worse, it might be his last day employed. Want to know if this accidental encounter destroyed his career or changed everything? Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. Ethan Cole had exactly $12.43 in his wallet when he pulled up to the Velvet Room at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday night. He knew the exact amount because he'd counted it 3 times at the last gas station, trying to figure out if he had enough for both fuel and the emergency pediatric visit his daughter might need if her fever didn't break. The $12 won. The fever would have to wait. He wasn't there for himself. God knew he hadn't been anywhere for himself in 8 years. Not since the divorce papers arrived on the same day as his daughter Emma's first birthday. Not since his ex-wife Vanessa walked out with barely a goodbye. And certainly not an apology. No, Ethan was there because his younger brother Marcus had texted him 17 times in the last hour, each message more incomprehensible than the last. The final one reading simply, "Bro help stuck, can't walk VIP section." Typical Marcus. 24 years old and still making decisions like a college freshman. The nightclub loomed before him, all purple neon and bass-heavy music that he could feel in his chest even from the parking lot. Ethan checked his phone one more time. The babysitter had texted that Emma was asleep, fever down to 99.8. Manageable. He had maybe an hour before he needed to be home. The entrance was a spectacle of controlled chaos. A velvet rope stretched between 2 chrome posts, and behind it stood a bouncer who looked like he bench-pressed motorcycles for fun. A line of impossibly dressed people snaked down the sidewalk, women in dresses that defied physics, and men in shirts that cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery budget. He approached the bouncer, very aware of his worn jeans and the Target clearance polo he'd thrown on after Emma's bedtime. "Excuse me, I'm not trying to get in. I just need to—" "Back of the line," the bouncer grunted without looking at him. "No, you don't understand. My brother's inside and he's—" "Back of the line." Ethan glanced at the queue. Minimum 45 minutes. He pulled out his phone to call Marcus again when a commotion erupted near the VIP entrance. A separate door about 20 feet away with its own velvet rope and its own mountain of a security guard. A cluster of people spilled out, laughing too loud, moving too fast. Someone stumbled. Someone else shrieked. And then, in the strobe light chaos of the entrance, Ethan saw her. At first, it was just a woman in a black dress, elegant and poised even in the mayhem. She was turning away from the crowd, one hand raised as if hailing a cab, her dark hair catching the neon lights. Then someone from the group, a drunk man in an expensive suit, lurched backward and crashed directly into her. The collision happened in slow motion. The man's elbow caught her shoulder. Her hand flew up reflexively. And her dress strap, the delicate spaghetti strap holding up the left side of her cocktail dress, snapped with an almost audible pop. The fabric fell. Ethan's brain registered 3 things simultaneously. 1, the woman was now exposed from the waist up on her left side. 2, she was desperately trying to catch the falling fabric with one hand while maintaining her balance in heels that could double as weapons. 3, he recognized her face. Claire Reynolds. His boss. The managing director of Morrison and Associates, the marketing firm where Ethan had worked for the past 3 years. The woman who'd interviewed him with such cold efficiency he'd left sweating through his shirt. The woman whose approval he needed for literally everything from vacation requests to printer paper orders. The woman whose office was on the top floor, whose car cost more than his annual salary, whose reputation for being ruthlessly professional was legendary. Claire Reynolds was topless at a nightclub entrance, and Ethan Cole was staring directly at her. He knew he should look away. Every functioning brain cell screamed at him to turn, to run, to literally be anywhere else. But human biology is a cruel thing, and for a fraction of a second, maybe half a second, maybe less, his eyes stayed exactly where they were, Then their eyes met. The recognition was mutual and instantaneous. Her gray eyes, the same eyes that had watched him pitch marketing strategies, that had narrowed when he'd missed a deadline, that had never once shown him any warmth whatsoever, went wide with shock, then horror, then something much worse. The cold, calculated understanding that he had just seen his boss half naked, and she knew it. Time crystallized into that single moment. The music faded. The crowd blurred. It was just the two of them locked in the most mortifying eye contact of Ethan's entire life. Claire's face transformed through a spectrum of emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, melting into humiliation, humiliation hardening into fury, fury sharpening into something dangerous and controlled. She yanked her dress up with one hand, her other hand already reaching for her phone, her mouth forming a tight line. Ethan finally remembered how to move. He spun around so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet, his face burning hot enough to combust. "Oh God," he muttered. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." Behind him, he heard Claire's voice, tight and lethal. "Get me a car, now!" Ethan fled, back toward his car, his heart hammering against his ribs. His phone buzzed. Marcus, again. "Where are you?" He typed back with shaking hands. "Outside. Come out, now." This was bad. This was catastrophically, career-endingly bad. He'd just seen his boss topless. She'd caught him looking. On Monday morning, he was going to walk into Morrison and Associates and, what? Pretend it never happened? Apologize? Start updating his resume? Emma's face flashed through his mind. Sweet Emma, with her gap-toothed smile and her obsession with dinosaurs. Emma, who needed braces in 2 years. Emma, whose private school tuition was only possible because of his job at Morrison and Associates. Emma, who he'd promised would never have to move again, would never have to change schools again, would never have to feel the instability that had marked her early childhood. "Please, God," Ethan whispered to no one, sitting in his car with his head against the steering wheel. "Please don't let me lose this job." His phone rang. Marcus. "Bro, where are you? I'm at the bar. I'm in the parking lot. Are you okay to walk?" "Yeah, man, I'm fine. Chad bought another round. We're just—" "Marcus!" Ethan's voice came out harder than intended. "I need to go home. Emma's sick. If you can walk, come out now. If not, get an Uber." Silence. Then quieter. "Is she okay?" "She's fine, but I need to get back." "Okay. Sorry, man. I'll catch a ride with Chad. Thanks for coming out." Ethan hung up and started the car, his hands still trembling slightly. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and spiraling thoughts. He'd worked so hard to build stability for Emma. After the divorce, after Vanessa left, after the apartment in the bad neighborhood and the maxed-out credit cards and the nights wondering if he was completely failing as a father, he'd finally gotten them to a good place. His apartment was small but safe. Emma's school was excellent. His job, despite Claire Reynolds' intimidating presence, was secure and paid well enough that he could almost breathe easy at the end of each month. And now he'd jeopardized everything with one accidental glance. The babysitter, a kind college student named Riley, was reading on the couch when he got home. "She's been asleep since 9, Riley whispered. "Fever's down. She asked for you twice, but settled okay." Ethan paid her. There went 8 of his $12, and locked the door behind her. He checked on Emma, his beautiful daughter, curled up in her dinosaur pajamas, her breathing steady and soft. He pressed a hand to her forehead. Cool. Thank God. He retreated to his own bedroom, but sleep was impossible. He lay in the dark, replaying those 3 seconds over and over. Claire's face, the broken strap, the moment their eyes met, the absolute certainty in her expression that this was going to be a problem. His phone buzzed at 2:37 a.m. An email. From Claire Reynolds. Ethan's stomach dropped. He opened it with shaking hands. Subject. Monday meeting. Mr. Cole, please report to my office at 8:00 a.m. sharp on Monday. We need to discuss a matter of utmost importance. Claire Reynolds, Managing Director, Morrison and Associates. That was it. No context, no explanation, just a summons that felt like a death sentence. Ethan set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Monday was 2.5 days away. 60 hours to imagine every worst-case scenario. 60 hours to figure out what to say, how to apologize, whether he should start job hunting immediately or wait until after she fired him. He finally fell asleep around 4, his dreams an anxious tangle of broken dress straps and unemployment lines. Saturday and Sunday passed in a fog. Ethan took Emma to the park, made her favorite pancakes, helped her build an elaborate Lego fortress, and tried desperately to be present. But his mind kept drifting back to Monday morning, to Claire's office, to the conversation that would determine his daughter's entire future. Emma noticed. Of course she noticed. 8-year-olds were terrifyingly perceptive. "Daddy, are you sad?" she asked on Sunday night, looking up from her book about pterodactyls. "No, sweetie, just thinking about work." "Is your boss being mean?" Ethan managed a smile. "No. Well, maybe. I don't know yet." Emma considered this seriously. "Mrs. Patterson says when someone's mean, you should tell a grown-up." "That's good advice. But you're already a grown-up." "I am." "So who do you tell?" Ethan pulled her into a hug, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "I'll figure it out, dinosaur girl. I promise." Monday morning arrived with all the warmth of a firing squad. Ethan dressed carefully. His best shirt, the navy one without any stains, his least worn khakis, the tie Emma had given him for Christmas. He dropped her at school 15 minutes early, kissed her forehead twice, and drove to Morrison & Associates with a sense of impending doom. The office building was sleek glass and chrome, the kind of place that always made Ethan feel slightly out of place. He'd been working here for 3 years, first as a junior copywriter, then as a senior strategist, and he was good at his job. His campaigns performed well. His clients liked him. His colleagues respected him. But Claire Reynolds had always been an enigma. She'd hired him after a single interview, promoted him after 18 months, and had barely spoken to him beyond work necessities ever since. She was brilliant. Everyone agreed on that. She'd transformed Morrison & Associates from a mid-tier agency into one of the most sought-after firms in the city. She was also notoriously private, notoriously demanding, and notoriously unforgiving of mistakes. And Ethan had just made the biggest mistake of his professional life. Her office was on the 12th floor, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Her assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, looked up as Ethan approached. "Mr. Cole, she's expecting you. Go right in." Ethan's mouth went dry. He knocked once on the heavy oak door. "Come in." He pushed the door open and stepped into Claire Reynolds' domain. The office was immaculate. Minimalist furniture, abstract art, everything in shades of gray and white. And behind the massive desk sat Claire herself, looking every inch the Ice Queen in a crisp white blouse and tailored black blazer. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Her expression was unreadable. "Close the door," she said without preamble. Ethan obeyed, his heart racing. "Ms. Reynolds, She held up one hand. "Let me speak first." He nodded, unable to find his voice. Claire stood, walking around her desk to lean against it, arms crossed. This close, Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "Friday night," she began, her voice carefully controlled, "was an unfortunate incident. A wardrobe malfunction, an accident." "Yes," Ethan said quickly. "Absolutely. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "I know." The words came out clipped. "I saw your face. You were as horrified as I was." A beat of silence. Ethan wasn't sure if that made things better or worse. Claire continued, her gray eyes fixed on him. "What happened was mortifying for both of us. However, I've spent the weekend considering the situation, and I've come to a decision." Here it comes, Ethan thought. The firing, the explanation of severance, the destruction of everything he'd built. "I'm not going to fire you." Ethan blinked. "You're... what?" "I'm not going to fire you," Claire repeated, a slight edge of impatience creeping into her tone. "You're a good employee, Mr. Cole. Your work is excellent. Your client retention is the highest in your department. Letting you go over an accidental encounter would be both unprofessional and foolish." Relief flooded through Ethan so intensely he felt lightheaded. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. However," the word landed like a hammer. "We need to establish very clear boundaries moving forward. What happened Friday night stays between us. We will never speak of it again. If I hear even a whisper that you've mentioned this incident to anyone, colleagues, friends, anyone, I will not hesitate to terminate your employment. Am I clear? Crystal clear, Ethan said immediately. I haven't told anyone. I won't tell anyone. You have my word. Claire studied him for a long moment, as if trying to determine whether his word meant anything. Finally, she nodded. Good. Now, let's move on to why I actually wanted to meet with you this morning. Ethan's brain struggled to shift gears. I'm sorry? For the first time, something that might have been amusement flickered across Claire's face. Did you think I scheduled this meeting solely to discuss Friday night? Mr. Cole, I'm a busy woman. If I wanted to fire you, Patricia would have handled it. He felt his face flush. Right. Of course. Claire returned to her desk, pulling out a folder. I'm putting together a team for our most important project of the year. Potentially the most important project this firm has ever handled. Dawson Industries wants to rebrand their entire consumer division, and they've shortlisted 3 agencies. We're one of them. The pitch is in 6 weeks. If we win this account, it's worth $15 million over 3 years. Ethan's mind was racing. Dawson Industries was massive, a Fortune 500 company with products in every American household. Landing them would be career-defining. I want you on my team, Claire said, meeting his eyes directly. You'll be lead copywriter and creative strategist. You'll report directly to me. The hours will be brutal. The expectations will be higher than anything you've experienced. But if we win this, your career trajectory changes permanently. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. It was also the most complicated situation Ethan could imagine, working directly under the boss who just caught him staring at her half-naked body. But he thought of Emma, of her school tuition, of the braces she'd need, of the stability she deserved. I'm in, he said without hesitation. Claire nodded, something like respect crossing her features. Good. We start tomorrow. Team meeting at 7 a.m. She handed him the folder. This is everything we know about Dawson so far. Familiarize yourself. Come prepared with initial thoughts. Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Cole? She looked up as he reached the door. Let's make this the last awkward conversation we ever have. Moving forward, we're professionals. Nothing more, nothing less. Understood completely. He left her office feeling like he'd just survived a hurricane. Relief, anxiety, excitement, and dread all competed for space in his chest. He wasn't fired. He was promoted in a way. He was also now going to be working in close proximity with Claire Reynolds for the next 6 weeks. The woman whose bare skin he'd accidentally seen. The woman who'd caught him staring. The woman who was trusting him with the biggest opportunity of his career despite having every reason to want him gone. As Ethan settled into his cubicle and opened the Dawson Industries folder, one thought crystallized. The next 6 weeks were either going to make his career or destroy what was left of his sanity, possibly both. The team meeting the next morning was exactly as intense as promised. Claire had assembled 6 people total, herself, Ethan, 2 senior designers, the analytics lead, and a brand strategist who'd flown in from the New York office. They gathered in the large conference room at 7 o'clock a.m. sharp, coffee and tension in equal measure. Claire stood at the head of the table, commanding the room effortlessly. She was in full professional mode, crisp charcoal suit, her presentation projected on the massive screen, her voice clear and authoritative. Dawson Industries is at an inflection point, she began, clicking to a slide showing market analysis. Their consumer division has been stagnant for 5 years. Market share is declining. Brand perception is reliable but boring. They know they need to change, but they don't know how. That's where we come in. She walked them through the competitive landscape, Dawson's challenges, and the other agencies vying for the account. Peterson and Gray are pitching youth-oriented disruption. Steinberg Associates are going classic luxury repositioning. Both approaches have merit. Both have been done before. Claire paused, letting the silence build. We need to be different. We need to show them something they haven't imagined. We have 6 weeks to crack this. 6 weeks to develop a strategy so compelling they can't say no. She looked around the table, her gaze landing on each person. When her eyes met Ethan's, there was no acknowledgement of Friday night, no hint of awkwardness, just expectation. I've divided us into 3 teams of 2, Claire continued. Each team will develop a separate strategic approach. At week 3, we'll present internally and choose the strongest concept to refine. Mr. Cole, you're with me. We'll be exploring emotional connectivity and authenticity angles. Ethan's stomach flipped. Of course he was paired with her. Of course. The meeting continued for 2 hours. Assignments distributed, timelines established, expectations set sky high. By the time they broke, Ethan's notebook was full of ideas and his anxiety was through the roof. Mr. Cole, Claire's voice stopped him at the door. My office. We need to discuss our approach. The other team members filtered out, and Ethan found himself alone with Claire again. She was gathering her materials, all business. I paired us together deliberately, she said without looking up. Your strength is emotional storytelling. Mine is strategic positioning. If we can combine those effectively, we'll have the winning pitch. I agree, Ethan said carefully. I also paired us together because I want to eliminate any residual awkwardness immediately. Now she did look up, her gray eyes direct. We're going to be spending significant time together over the next 6 weeks. Long hours, high stress. I need to know that Friday night won't be a distraction. It won't be, Ethan said firmly. I'm here to work, that's all. Claire studied him for a moment. You have a daughter, correct? The question caught him off guard. Yes. Emma, she's 8. And you're raising her alone. It wasn't really a question, but Ethan answered anyway. Yes. Her mother isn't in the picture. Something shifted in Claire's expression. Not quite sympathy, but something softer than her usual ice. That must be difficult. We manage. The hours on this project will be demanding. If you need flexibility for parenting responsibilities, let me know in advance. I value honesty and communication over last-minute emergencies. Ethan blinked, surprised. Thank you. I appreciate that. Claire nodded and returned to her papers. We'll meet daily at 4 p.m. to sync on progress. Come prepared, that's all. Dismissed, Ethan left her office feeling more confused than ever. Claire Reynolds was turning out to be nothing like he'd expected. Yes, she was demanding and intense, but there was something underneath the ice, something almost human. The days that followed fell into a brutal rhythm. Ethan would drop Emma at school, work his regular responsibilities until 4, then dive into the Dawson project with Claire until 8 or 9 at night. He'd race home, have dinner with Emma, help with homework, and then work until midnight on concepts and copy. The exhaustion was real, but so was the excitement. Claire was brilliant to work with, sharp, creative, willing to kill her own ideas if they weren't good enough. She pushed Ethan hard, challenging every assumption, forcing him to defend his concepts or abandon them. This headline is lazy, she'd say, crossing out his work with a red pen. What makes it lazy? It tells me what to think instead of making me feel something. Try again. So he'd try again and again. And slowly their approach took shape. Authenticity in a world of artifice. Dawson as the brand that gave people permission to be real, to embrace imperfection, to stop performing and start living. It was risky. It was different. It was exactly what Claire wanted. 2 weeks in, they were working late on a Friday night. Everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet except for their voices and the hum of the ventilation system. What if we push this further? Claire mused, staring at their strategy board. What if the entire campaign was user-generated content? Real customers, real stories, no actors, no scripts. Ethan sat up straighter. That's actually brilliant, but risky. What if the content isn't polished enough? That's the point. Claire's eyes were bright with possibility. The lack of polish is the authenticity. We're not selling perfection, we're selling real life. They worked until 11 that night, building out the concept, excitement overriding exhaustion. When Claire finally called it, Ethan gathered his things and hesitated. Miss Reynolds, can I ask you something? She looked up from her laptop. What? Why did you really put me on this team after everything? Claire was quiet for a long moment, then, because you're good at what you do. Because this project needs your skills, and because I don't believe in punishing people for accidents they had no control over. She paused. Also because I saw how you reacted. You were mortified. You tried to look away. You didn't leer. You didn't make it worse. You treated an embarrassing situation with basic decency. That matters. Ethan felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep doing excellent work. But there was the ghost of a smile on her face as she said it. As Ethan drove home that night, he realized something had shifted. The awkwardness was fading. In its place was, what? Respect? Partnership? He wasn't sure. But working with Claire Reynolds was no longer terrifying. It was becoming something else entirely. The transformation happened so gradually that Ethan didn't notice it at first. One day he was terrified of Claire Reynolds, and the next he was comfortable enough to argue with her about font choices at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Serif is too traditional, she insisted, arms crossed as they both stared at the mock-up on her office wall. Sans serif is too cold, Ethan countered. We're selling authenticity, remember? Warmth, human connection. Since when does a typeface determine human connection? Since always. Design communicates emotion before words do. Claire raised an eyebrow, but he caught the hint of amusement there. Fine. Show me 3 serif options by tomorrow morning, but if they look like a retirement home brochure, we're going sans serif, and you're buying the coffee for a week. Deal. It was their 3rd week on the project, and the dynamic between them had shifted into something surprisingly functional. Claire was still demanding, still intense, but Ethan had learned to read her moods. He knew when to push back and when to listen. He knew that when she went silent for exactly 45 seconds, she was processing, not rejecting. He knew that when she tapped her pen 3 times, she was about to pivot the entire strategy. And Claire, for her part, had started trusting him. She no longer questioned every suggestion he made. She asked his opinion before presenting to the larger team. She even laughed occasionally, actual laughs, not the polite corporate chuckles she gave in client meetings. The Friday night incident had become a distant memory, buried under deadlines and collaboration. They'd successfully compartmentalized it, moved past it, proven that professionals could handle awkward situations with maturity and grace. Or so Ethan thought. The crack in that carefully constructed wall appeared on a Wednesday afternoon during week 4. Ethan was in Claire's office reviewing customer research when his phone rang. Emma's school. His heart immediately jumped to his throat. I need to take this, he said, already standing. Claire nodded, returning to her laptop. Hello? Mr. Cole, this is Nurse Morrison from Riverside Elementary. Emma's feeling unwell. She has a fever of 101, and she's asking for you. Can you come pick her up? Ethan checked his watch, 2:30. They had a critical team sync at 3 to finalize the creative direction. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and turned to Claire, already calculating. I'm so sorry. Emma's sick. I have to go get her from school. I know we have the meeting at 3, but I can call in, or we can reschedule. Go, Claire said immediately, waving him toward the door. I'll handle the meeting. Are you sure? This is the decision point meeting. We're choosing which concept to move forward with. Ethan. It was the first time she'd used his first name at work, and it stopped him cold. Your daughter is sick and she needs you. Go. I'll cover the presentation. We can sync tonight if needed. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. Thank you. Really, I'll make this up to you. Just take care of your daughter. Ethan grabbed his laptop and keys, already halfway to the door when Claire called out again. Ethan? He turned back. Her expression was softer than he'd ever seen it. I hope she feels better soon. Something warm unfurled in his chest, something he didn't have time to examine. Thanks, Ms. Reynolds. Claire, she said quietly. When it's just us, you can call me Claire. He nodded, too rushed to fully process what that meant, and hurried out. Emma was curled up in the nurse's office, looking small and miserable, her face flushed with fever. She perked up slightly when she saw him. Daddy! Hey, dinosaur girl. He pressed a hand to her forehead, definitely warm. Let's get you home, okay? The afternoon dissolved into the familiar routine of sick kid care. Children's Tylenol, cold compresses, her favorite blanket, and approximately 700 requests for water, juice, different juice, the other blanket, and could they watch the dinosaur documentary again? By 6 p.m., Emma's fever had broken and she'd fallen asleep on the couch. Ethan's phone had been buzzing periodically with work messages, but he'd ignored them all, focused entirely on his daughter. Now, with Emma sleeping peacefully, he finally checked his notifications. 12 messages in the team's Slack, 4 emails, and 1 text from an unknown number that made him do a double take. Presentation went well. Team voted for our concept. Hope Emma is feeling better. CR. Claire had texted him. Claire Reynolds had somehow gotten his personal cell phone number and texted him about his sick daughter. Before he could overthink it, he typed back, "That's great news. She's sleeping now. Fever broke. Thank you for covering." The response came within seconds. "Good. Don't worry about work tonight. See you tomorrow." Ethan stared at his phone, trying to reconcile this version of Claire with the Ice Queen who'd fired 3 people a month ago. The woman who'd scheduled meetings at 7 a.m. without apology. The woman who'd once made a junior designer cry over a color palette. His phone buzzed again. "Also, I used your serif font option. You were right about the warmth." Despite everything, the exhaustion, the worry, the stress, Ethan smiled. The next morning, Emma insisted she was well enough for school, though Ethan made her promise to tell the nurse immediately if she felt worse. He dropped her off with extra snacks and probably too many kisses, then headed to the office with a travel mug of coffee and a sense of apprehension about how much work he'd missed. Claire was already in her office when he arrived at 8. He knocked on the open door. "Come in." She looked up from her computer, assessing him quickly. "How is she?" "Much better. Thank you for asking, and thank you for yesterday. I know that meeting was crucial." "It was fine." Claire gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Sit. Let me catch you up." For the next 20 minutes, she walked him through the team decision, the refinements they'd discussed, and the next steps. Her explanation was thorough and clear, with none of the frustration Ethan would have expected about having to do his job for him. When she finished, Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "How did you get my cell number?" A flicker of something, embarrassment, crossed Claire's face. "HR file. I hope that wasn't overstepping. I just thought direct communication seemed more efficient than email for personal matters." "No, it's fine. I appreciate it." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You've been really understanding. About Emma, about the flexibility I need. That's not what I expected when I started this project." Claire's expression became unreadable, the Ice Queen mask sliding back into place. "What did you expect?" "Honestly, I expected you to view my parenting responsibilities as a liability, something that would interfere with work." "I see." Her tone had cooled slightly. "And what changed your expectation?" "You did. The way you handled yesterday. The way you've handled every time I've needed to leave for Emma. You've never made me feel guilty about it." Claire was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming once on her desk. When she spoke, her voice was careful, measured. "I had a conversation once with someone I respected very much. They told me that the best leaders don't demand their teams sacrifice their humanity for success. They figure out how to integrate both." She met his eyes. "You're a good father, Ethan. Emma is lucky to have you." "I'm not going to penalize you for prioritizing her. That would make me a terrible person and a worse manager." The vulnerability in that statement, the admission that she'd learned this rather than always known it, struck something deep in Ethan. "Thank you. That means a lot." "You're welcome. Now can we please get back to work? We have 2 weeks until the pitch, and the customer testimonial videos are a disaster." Ethan laughed, the tension breaking. "That bad?" "Worse. Come on, I'll show you." They spent the rest of the morning in the editing suite, reviewing the user-generated content they'd collected. Claire was right. Most of it was unusable, too polished or too awkward. But there were gems hidden in the footage, moments of genuine emotion that made Ethan's creative instincts light up. "There," he said, pausing on a woman laughing as her toddler smeared cake on her face. "That's real. That's the feeling we want." Claire leaned closer to the screen, close enough that Ethan caught the faint scent of her perfume, something subtle and expensive. "You're right. That's perfect. Can we build a sequence around authentic mess? The beautiful chaos of real life?" "Yes, exactly. Not Instagram perfect moments. but the perfectly imperfect ones. They worked through lunch, ordering sandwiches to the editing suite, barely noticing when the rest of the office cleared out for the day. By 7 p.m., they had a rough cut that made them both sit back with satisfaction. "That's it," Claire said softly. "That's the campaign. It's good, isn't it?" "It's better than good. It's what they need, even if they don't know it yet." Ethan glanced at his watch and swore quietly. "I need to get home. Emma's with the babysitter, and I promised I'd be back by 7:30. "Go," Claire said immediately. "We can polish this tomorrow." He gathered his things, but paused at the door. "Claire?" She looked up. "Do you ever take time off? I mean, you're here every morning when I arrive and still here when I leave. Do you ever just stop?" Something flickered across her face, too quick to identify. "I like my work." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." Her tone had gone carefully neutral, the wall sliding back up. Ethan recognized the dismissal, but pushed anyway. Everyone needs something outside of work, friends, family, hobbies, something. "Not everyone has the luxury of something outside work, Ethan." The words came out sharper than he'd expected. "Some of us built our careers by making different choices. Not better or worse, just different." The implicit message was clear. This conversation was over. Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." But as he drove home, he couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. The loneliness buried in those words. The defensive edge. Claire Reynolds was brilliant and successful and apparently completely alone. It bothered him more than it should have. The final 2 weeks before the pitch were a controlled frenzy. The team worked around the clock, refining every detail, anticipating every question. Claire was everywhere, directing, encouraging, demanding excellence. Ethan had never seen anyone work with such focused intensity. He'd also never seen anyone so completely isolated. The other team members went out for drinks after long nights. They had inside jokes and shared lunches. But Claire remained apart, professional but never personal. She joined them for necessary celebrations, but always left early, always alone. Ethan started noticing other things too. Claire ate lunch at her desk every day, the same salad from the same place. She never mentioned weekend plans or vacation days. Her office had no personal photos, no decorations beyond abstract art. For someone so successful, her life seemed remarkably empty. It was none of his business. He knew that, but he couldn't seem to stop noticing. 3 days before the pitch, Ethan was working late, again, when Emma video called him. She was at home with Riley, wearing her dinosaur pajamas and clutching her favorite stuffed triceratops. "Daddy, when are you coming home? You promised we'd finish our puzzle." Guilt twisted in his chest. "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. This big work project is almost done. Just a few more days." "You always say that." Her bottom lip trembled slightly, and Ethan felt like the worst father in the world. "Tell you what, this weekend, after the big presentation, we'll do whatever you want. Zoo, museum, ice cream for breakfast, you pick." Emma's face brightened. "Really? Can we go to the Natural History Museum? They have a new dinosaur exhibit." "Absolutely, I promise. Now go brush your teeth and get ready for bed, okay? I'll be home in an hour." "Okay, love you, Daddy." "Love you too, dinosaur girl." He hung up and found Claire standing in the doorway of the conference room, her expression unreadable. "Sorry," he said quickly. Emma was checking in. "Don't apologize." Claire stepped into the room, her heels clicking on the tile floor. "You should go home. We're as prepared as we're going to be." "I want to run through the presentation one more time." "Ethan, you've run through it 6 times today. You could do it in your sleep. Go home to your daughter." He started to protest, then saw something in Claire's face, something wistful and sad. "Come with me," he heard himself say. Claire blinked. "Excuse me?" "Come have dinner with us. Emma would love to meet you, and honestly, we could both use a break. I make a mean spaghetti, and Emma's currently obsessed with telling everyone facts about pterodactyls." For a moment, Claire looked genuinely tempted. Then the wall came back up. "That's kind of you, but I should finish the financial projections." "The projections are done. I saw you complete them 3 hours ago. Then I should review them again." "Claire." Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle. "When's the last time you had a home-cooked meal?" She looked away. "I don't remember." Then come to dinner. No work talk. Just food and probably too many dinosaur facts. What do you say? The silence stretched long enough that Ethan started to regret the invitation. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. Okay. 20 minutes later, Ethan was unlocking his apartment door with Claire Reynolds standing beside him, looking more uncomfortable than he'd ever seen her. The confident executive had been replaced by someone who seemed genuinely uncertain about entering a stranger's home. Fair warning, Ethan said as he pushed the door open. It's not fancy, and there's probably Legos everywhere. I don't need fancy. Emma looked up from the living room floor, where she was indeed surrounded by Legos, and gasped. Daddy, you brought someone home. Emma, this is Ms. Reynolds. She works with me. Ms. Reynolds, this is Emma, the dinosaur expert. Claire's entire demeanor shifted. She smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed her face, and crouched down to Emma's level. It's very nice to meet you, Emma. Your dad talks about you all the time. He does? Emma looked delighted. Did he tell you I know 47 different dinosaur names? He did not. That's very impressive. Do you want to hear them all? Maybe after dinner, Ethan interjected, catching Riley's amused expression. He paid the babysitter and sent her home, then headed to the kitchen while Emma gave Claire an extensive tour of their small apartment, cooking while listening to his boss and his daughter discuss the differences between Jurassic and Cretaceous periods was surreal. But when he glanced into the living room and saw Claire sitting cross-legged on the floor, genuinely listening to Emma's enthusiastic explanation, something warm settled in his chest. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Emma spilled her milk twice, insisted on demonstrating how a T-Rex ate, and peppered Claire with questions about everything from her favorite color to whether she'd ever seen a real fossil. Claire answered each question with surprising patience, even laughing when Emma declared that purple was a very good choice for a favorite color because it's the color of some poisonous frogs. I did not know that, Claire said seriously. Thank you for the education. After dinner, Emma convinced Claire to help finish the puzzle, a 1,000-piece monstrosity of the solar system. Ethan did the dishes and watched them work together, his boss and his daughter, their heads bent over the pieces. This one goes here, Emma said confidently. Are you sure? It looks like it might fit over there. Trust me, I'm good at puzzles. Claire tried Emma's suggestion, and the piece clicked perfectly into place. You were right. You are good at puzzles. Emma beamed with pride, and Ethan found himself smiling at the domesticity of it all. At 8:30, Emma started yawning. Ethan scooped her up. Bedtime, dinosaur girl. But Ms. Reynolds is still here. Ms. Reynolds will still be here after you brush your teeth and put on pajamas. 5 minutes. Emma scampered off to the bathroom, and Claire stood, stretching slightly. I should probably go. You don't have to, unless you want to. Claire looked around the apartment at the lived-in mess, the photos of Emma on the walls, the half-finished puzzle on the floor. This is nice. What you have here, it's really nice. There was something in her voice, a loneliness so profound it made Ethan's chest ache. Stay for coffee. Emma will want to say goodnight. She nodded, following him to the small kitchen. While Ethan made coffee, Claire studied the photos on the refrigerator, Emma's artwork, a drawing labeled, My Daddy the Best. Various school announcements held up with dinosaur magnets. She's lucky to have you, Claire said quietly. I'm the lucky one. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though you're doing it alone? Even though... Ethan handed her a mug. It's hard. Some days it's really hard. But she's worth every sleepless night and every moment of doubt. Claire wrapped her hands around the mug, steam rising between them. I never wanted children. Everyone assumes successful women secretly regret that choice, but I don't. I built exactly the life I wanted. She paused. Or I thought I did. And now? Now I'm 42 years old, and I just spent the best evening I've had in months sitting on the floor doing a puzzle with an 8-year-old. She laughed, but it sounded sad. What does that say about my life? Before Ethan could respond, Emma appeared in her pajamas. Ms. Reynolds, you're still here! Claire's expression transformed again, the vulnerability disappearing behind warmth. I am. I heard you need to be tucked in. Daddy does it, but you can help. 10 minutes later, after a bedtime story featuring significantly more dinosaur sound effects than the original text, Emma was asleep. Claire and Ethan retreated to the living room, speaking in hushed tones. "Thank you for tonight," Claire said, collecting her purse. "I can't remember the last time I felt this normal." "You're welcome here any time. Emma clearly adores you." "The feeling is mutual. She's wonderful, Ethan. You should be proud." "I am." He walked her to the door. "Claire, what you said earlier about building the life you wanted, it's never too late to add to it, to let people in." She looked at him for a long moment, her gray eyes searching his face. "Is that what tonight was? Letting you in?" "Maybe, if you want it to be." "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "I've spent 20 years knowing exactly what I want. And now," she trailed off. "Now? Now I'm standing in my employee's apartment at 9 p.m. realizing I don't have anyone to go home to." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's pathetic, isn't it?" "It's honest, and there's nothing pathetic about honesty." Claire studied him, something shifting in her expression. For a moment, Ethan thought she might say something else, might bridge whatever gap still existed between them. Instead, she simply said, "Good night, Ethan. See you tomorrow." "Good night, Claire." He watched her walk to her car, something unspoken hanging in the air between them. The evening had changed something, cracked open a door neither of them had realized was there. Ethan closed his apartment door and leaned against it, his mind racing. This was complicated. Claire was his boss. They had a crucial presentation in 3 days. Developing feelings for her would be the worst possible timing, except he suspected it was already too late for that. The morning of the pitch arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Ethan's coffee taste like anxiety. He'd barely slept, running through the presentation in his head until the words blurred together. Emma had sensed his tension at breakfast and squeezed his hand across the table. "You're going to be great, Daddy. Miss Reynolds said you're really smart." "She did?" "Uh-huh. When we were doing the puzzle, she said you have the best ideas of anyone she works with." Emma took a bite of her cereal. "I think she likes you." Ethan's heart did something complicated. "She's my boss, sweetheart. She's supposed to like my work." "No, I mean she likes you, like how Sarah's mom likes her boyfriend." "Emma, she smiled different when she looked at you, like this." Emma demonstrated an expression that was far too knowing for an 8-year-old. "Finish your breakfast. We're going to be late." But Emma's words echoed in his head during the entire drive to the office. Claire couldn't have feelings for him. That was ridiculous. She was his boss. She was successful and sophisticated, and he was a single dad who ate leftovers for dinner and drove a car with a mysterious rattling sound he couldn't afford to fix. Except he remembered the way she'd looked at him in his apartment doorway, the vulnerability in her admission that she had no one to go home to, the warmth in her eyes when she'd tucked Emma in. He was still turning it over in his mind when he walked into Morrison & Associates at 7 a.m. and found Claire already in the conference room, arranging presentation materials with military precision. "Morning," she said without looking up. "Back to business, Claire," he noticed. The woman from his apartment had disappeared behind the professional armor. "Team arrives at 7:30. Dawson executives at 9. Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be." She finally looked at him, and for just a second her expression softened. "You're going to be brilliant. Trust yourself." The rest of the team filtered in over the next 30 minutes, all nervous energy and last-minute preparations. Claire gathered them in a circle, her voice calm and commanding. "We've done the work. We know this campaign inside and out. When Dawson walks through that door, I want them to see confidence, creativity, and a team that believes in what we're selling. Because if we don't believe in it, they won't either." She looked at each person individually. "This is our moment. Let's make it count." At 8:55, the receptionist called. The Dawson executives were in the building. Claire smoothed her jacket and turned to Ethan. "Ready? Ready?" The Dawson team consisted of 4 people. Richard Dawson himself, the company founder and CEO, his daughter Jennifer, the VP of Consumer Products, and 2 senior marketing directors whose names Ethan immediately forgot in his nervousness. They were all impeccably dressed, all carrying the kind of quiet power that came with controlling a Fortune 500 company. Claire greeted them with perfect professional warmth, guiding them to their seats and offering coffee. Ethan watched her work the room, utterly in command, and felt a surge of admiration mixed with something else he didn't want to name. The presentation began. For the first 20 minutes, Claire led the strategic overview, market analysis, competitive landscape, the gap Dawson needed to fill. She was flawless, fielding questions with ease, pivoting when needed. When she transitioned to Ethan for the creative concept, she gave him a look that said clearly, "Your turn." Ethan stood, clicked to the first slide, and took a breath. "Mr. Dawson, what if I told you that your greatest competitive advantage isn't a better product? It's something much simpler. It's permission." Richard Dawson leaned forward slightly. "Permission for what?" "Permission to be imperfect, to embrace the mess, to stop performing for social media and start living real lives." Ethan clicked to the next slide, the woman with cake on her face, laughing. "Your competitors are selling aspiration. We're proposing you sell authenticity." He walked them through the campaign concept, the user-generated content strategy, the emotional arc of the messaging. When he played the rough cut of the testimonial video, real customers, real moments, real joy in the midst of beautiful chaos, the room went completely silent. When it ended, Jennifer Dawson wiped her eyes. "That made me cry. An ad made me cry." "That's the point," Claire said gently. "We don't want to sell products. We want to sell permission to be human. Dawson becomes the brand that understands real life isn't perfect, and that's okay." The questions came fast after that. Logistics, budget, timelines, risk assessment. Claire and Ethan tag-teamed the responses, their rhythm so natural it felt choreographed. When Ethan stumbled on a budget question, Claire smoothly stepped in. When Claire needed a creative example, Ethan provided 3. They were a perfect team. By the time the Dawson executives left 90 minutes later, Ethan was exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure. The moment the conference room door closed, the team erupted in contained celebration. "That was incredible," one of the designers said. "Did you see Jennifer's face?" "They loved it," the analytics lead agreed. "I think we actually have a shot." Claire remained calm, though Ethan saw the pleased glint in her eyes. "Let's not count our chickens. They're seeing 2 other agencies. We wait for their decision." But as the team dispersed, chattering excitedly, Claire caught Ethan's arm. "You were perfect. That opening about permission, that's what sold them." "We were perfect," Ethan corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." They stood there in the empty conference room, the adrenaline of the presentation slowly fading into something quieter and more dangerous. Claire's hand was still on his arm. Neither of them moved. "Claire." Ethan's phone rang, shattering the moment. Emma's school. Again. His stomach dropped as he answered. "Hello?" "Mr. Cole, it's Principal Anderson. I'm afraid Emma's been in an accident on the playground. She fell from the monkey bars. We've called an ambulance. She's conscious and talking, but we think her arm might be broken." The world tilted. "I'm on my way." "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's. The ambulance is leaving now." Ethan was already moving, grabbing his keys, his mind blank with panic. "I have to go. Emma's hurt. Hospital." "Go," Claire said immediately. "I'll handle everything here." But when Ethan reached the parking lot, Claire was right behind him. "You're in no state to drive. I'm taking you." "Claire, you don't have to. Get in the car, Ethan." Her tone left no room for argument. They climbed into her sleek Mercedes and she pulled out of the parking lot with controlled speed. Ethan sat in the passenger seat, his hands shaking, his mind racing with every worst-case scenario. "She's going to be okay," Claire said, her voice steady. "She's conscious and talking. That's good. What if it's serious? What if she needs surgery? What if—" "Then we deal with it. One step at a time." Claire glanced at him. "Breathe, Ethan. Emma needs you calm." She was right. He forced himself to take deep breaths to focus on the road ahead instead of the panic clawing at his chest. They reached St. Mary's in record time. Ethan bolted from the car before Claire had fully stopped, running through the emergency room entrance. A nurse directed him to a curtained area, and there was Emma, looking small and scared in a hospital bed, her left arm cradled against her chest. "Daddy!" Her face crumpled when she saw him, and fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Ethan gathered her carefully into his arms, mindful of her injury. "You're okay. I've got you." "It hurts," she sobbed into his shoulder. "I know, the doctors are going to fix it. You're so brave." A doctor appeared, a kind-faced woman in her 50s. "Mr. Cole?" "I'm Dr. Patterson. Emma's going to be fine. It's a clean break of the radius, her forearm. We'll need to set it and cast it, but it should heal perfectly. She'll be in a cast for about 6 weeks." Relief flooded through Ethan so intensely his knees went weak. "Thank you. When can we do it?" "We're prepping the room now. It'll be about an hour. We'll give her something for the pain first." The doctor left, and Ethan held Emma close, whispering reassurances. He was so focused on his daughter that he didn't notice Claire had followed him until Emma spoke. "Ms. Reynolds, you came too." Claire stepped forward, her expression gentle. "Of course I did. How are you feeling, brave girl?" "My arm really hurts, but Daddy's here now, so it's better." "Your dad loves you very much." Claire looked at Ethan. "Is there anything you need? Coffee? Food? I can make calls, handle work stuff." "You should go back," Ethan said, though he was grateful she'd stayed this long. "The team needs to know about Dawson, and I'm going to be here for hours." "The team can wait. Where else would I be right now?" Something in Ethan's chest cracked open at those words. This woman who barely knew his daughter, who had every reason to prioritize the biggest pitch of the year, was choosing to stay in a hospital waiting room because his child was hurt. Over the next hour, while they waited for the procedure room, Claire kept Emma entertained with stories about her own childhood accidents. Apparently, young Claire had broken her collarbone falling out of a tree while trying to rescue a cat. Did the cat get rescued?" Emma asked, momentarily distracted from her pain. "Eventually. By the fire department. I just ended up in a hospital, feeling very foolish." "At least you tried to help," Emma said seriously. "That's what heroes do." Claire's eyes went bright, and she had to look away for a moment. When she looked back, her voice was thick. "You're absolutely right. That is what heroes do." When the nurse came to take Emma for the procedure, she clung to Ethan. "Don't leave, Daddy. I'll be right outside the whole time, I promise." "Can Ms. Reynolds stay too?" Ethan glanced at Claire, who nodded immediately. "I'm not going anywhere." They sedated Emma lightly for the procedure, and Ethan paced the waiting room like a caged animal. Claire sat calmly in a plastic chair, but he noticed her hands were clasped tightly together, knuckles white. "You didn't have to stay," he said, sitting down beside her. "But I'm really glad you did." "Where else would I be?" she repeated, then quieter. "I know what it's like to face scary things alone. You shouldn't have to." "Is that what you do? Face things alone?" Claire was silent for a long moment. "Always. By choice, mostly. It seemed easier that way." "Easier doesn't mean better." "No," she agreed. "I'm learning that." The doctor emerged 45 minutes later with good news. The bone was set perfectly, the cast was on, and Emma was waking up from sedation. They could see her in a few minutes. When they entered the recovery room, Emma was groggy but smiling, her arm encased in bright purple plaster. "Look, Ms. Reynolds, it's your favorite color," Claire laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "It's perfect. You're going to have the best-looking cast in your whole school." Emma's eyes were already drooping again from the medication. "Will you sign it?" "I would be honored." A nurse provided a marker, and Claire carefully wrote on the cast in her elegant handwriting, "To Emma, the bravest girl I know. You're going to do amazing things. Love, Ms. Reynolds." Ethan read it over her shoulder and felt his throat tighten. Love. She'd signed it, love. Emma fell asleep minutes later, and the doctor said they could take her home once she woke up naturally. Ethan sat beside her bed, holding her good hand, and Claire settled into a chair on the other side. "You should go," Ethan said again, though he didn't want her to. "It's past 3. The whole day's gone." "Do you want me to go?" He met her eyes across Emma's sleeping form. "No?" "Then I'm staying." They sat in companionable silence, watching Emma sleep, until Ethan's phone buzzed. Patricia, Claire's assistant, with a message that made his heart stop. "Dawson called. They want to meet tomorrow morning. They have questions." He showed Claire the message. Her expression remained neutral, but he saw the flash of concern. Questions could mean anything. Could mean they're going with someone else and want to let us down easy. Or it could mean they want to negotiate terms because they're choosing us. Claire set her phone aside. Whatever it is, we'll handle it tomorrow. Right now, Emma is what matters. Claire, this is the biggest pitch of your career. You can't just... Ethan, she leaned forward, her voice firm. I said we'll handle it tomorrow. Emma is hurt. She needs her father, and I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. The pitch can wait 6 hours. He stared at her, this woman who was systematically dismantling every assumption he'd ever made about her. Why are you doing this? Because I care about you. The words came out simply, honestly. Both of you. And because for 20 years I've prioritized work over everything else. I've missed birthdays and holidays and important moments because there was always another pitch, another deadline, another crisis. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of pretending that success is enough. Ethan couldn't breathe. Claire, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. That night at the nightclub, that horrible, embarrassing moment, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen. But it wasn't. It was the beginning of something I didn't know I needed. Working with you, getting to know you and Emma, seeing what a real life looks like, it changed something in me. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone who has pizza dinners and does puzzles and cares about someone more than the next big account. But I want to learn. She looked at him, vulnerability written across every feature. If you'll let me. Emma stirred in her sleep and they both froze, but she settled again without waking. The moment hung between them, fragile and precious. I have feelings for you too, Ethan admitted quietly. I've been trying not to because you're my boss and this is complicated and I have Emma to think about. But that night you came to dinner, when you sat on my floor and listened to dinosaur facts like they were the most important thing in the world, I think that's when I knew. Knew what? That you're not who I thought you were. That underneath the Ice Queen exterior, you're kind and lonely and maybe a little bit scared, just like me. Claire's eyes glistened. I am scared. Terrified, actually. I don't know how to be in a relationship. I don't know how to be part of a family. What if I'm terrible at it? What if you're not? Ethan reached across Emma's bed and took Claire's hand. What if you're exactly what we need? A tear slid down Claire's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. This could ruin everything. Your job, my reputation, the professional boundaries we're supposed to maintain. I know. People will talk. They'll say I'm showing favoritism or you're using me for advancement. Probably. We could lose the Dawson account if they think we're too distracted by personal drama. We could, Ethan agreed, or we could win it and prove that people can have both, great work and great personal lives, that they're not mutually exclusive. Claire laughed through her tears. When did you become the optimist? When I met someone worth being optimistic about. They sat there holding hands across Emma's hospital bed, the weight of their admission settling around them. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the room in golden light. Emma woke an hour later, groggy and asking for ice cream. Ethan convinced the nurse to approve it, and Claire went to the hospital cafeteria, returning with 3 cups of chocolate ice cream and a determination to make Emma smile. Did you know, Claire said seriously, that some dinosaurs might have had feathers? Emma's eyes went wide despite her drowsiness. Really? Really? I read an article about it. Scientists think velociraptors might have been covered in feathers, like big scary chickens. Scary chickens, Emma giggled, then winced as the movement jostled her arm. They were released at 7 p.m. with pain medication, care instructions, and a follow-up appointment in 2 weeks. Ethan carried Emma to Claire's car. His was still at the office, and settled her carefully in the back seat. Claire drove them home through the evening traffic, and when they arrived, she helped Ethan get Emma inside and settled on the couch with her favorite blanket and the dinosaur documentary queued up. I should let you rest, Claire said, lingering at the door. Stay for dinner, Emma called from the couch. Please? Claire looked at Ethan, questions in her eyes. He nodded. Stay. I'm just going to order pizza, but stay. So she did. They ate pizza on the couch while Emma dozed between them, exhausted from the pain medication and the trauma of the day. Ethan and Claire talked quietly about everything and nothing, favorite movies, childhood memories, the weird quirks of their colleagues. It felt natural. It felt right. At 9, Ethan carried Emma to bed. She woke enough to ask if Miss Reynolds was still there. She is. Good. I like when she's here. It feels like a family. Ethan's heart stuttered. Yeah, dinosaur girl, it kinda does. When he returned to the living room, Claire was standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. She turned when she heard him. Emma said something, Ethan began, then stopped. What did she say? That when you're here, it feels like a family. Claire's expression softened into something achingly vulnerable. Does it feel that way to you? Ethan crossed the room until he was standing in front of her, close enough to see the hope and fear warring in her gray eyes. Yes, it does. Ethan, if we do this, if we try this, I need you to know that I'm going to mess up. I'm going to work too late and forget to call and probably be terrible at the domestic stuff you make look so easy. And I'm going to be a single dad with a million responsibilities and not enough time, and an 8-year-old who will always come first. I wouldn't want it any other way, Claire said fiercely. Emma should come first. She's extraordinary. So are you. They stood there, the space between them charged with everything unspoken. Then Claire reached up and touched his face, her palm warm against his cheek. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. So we'll figure it out together. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. When their lips met, it was gentle and tentative and perfect. Claire's hand slid to the back of his neck, and Ethan's arms went around her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Claire rested her forehead against his. We have the Dawson meeting in the morning, she murmured. We do. We should probably get some sleep. We should. Neither of them moved. Claire laughed softly. I don't want to go home. Then don't. Stay. At her surprised look, Ethan clarified quickly. On the couch. I'm not... We should take this slow, but stay. Please. She nodded, and Ethan found her a spare blanket and pillow. As he was heading to his own bedroom, Claire called out, Ethan? He turned back. Thank you. For today. For letting me be part of this. Thank you for staying, for caring enough to stay. He went to bed feeling like his entire world had shifted on its axis. Tomorrow they'd face the Dawson meeting, deal with the fallout of whatever this was between them, navigate the complicated waters of a boss dating an employee. But tonight, Claire Reynolds was sleeping on his couch, and his daughter was safe in her bed with a purple cast signed with love. And for the first time in 8 years, Ethan felt like maybe, just maybe, his life was becoming something more than just surviving. It was becoming something beautiful. Morning came too early, filtered through the apartment windows with an insistent brightness that felt almost accusatory. Ethan woke to the sound of quiet movement in his kitchen and the smell of coffee brewing. For a disoriented moment, he thought he'd dreamed the entire previous day. Emma's accident, the hospital, the kiss with Claire Reynolds. Then he heard her voice, soft and careful, speaking to Emma. Easy with that arm. Let me help you with the cereal box. I can do it myself, Emma insisted with the stubborn independence of 8-year-olds everywhere. I know you can, but sometimes accepting help is okay too. Ethan pulled on a shirt and emerged from his bedroom to find Claire, still in yesterday's clothes, helping Emma pour cereal one-handed while his daughter narrated facts about long-necked dinosaurs. Claire looked rumpled and beautiful and completely out of place in his tiny kitchen, and Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Morning, he said. Claire looked up, and the smile that crossed her face was unguarded and warm. Morning, I hope you don't mind I raided your coffee. Please, it's the least I can offer after you slept on my couch. Your couch is surprisingly comfortable, though I should probably go home and change before the meeting. She glanced at the clock on the microwave. Which is in 2 hours. Reality crashed back in. The Dawson meeting. The questions they had. The career-defining moment that would determine whether the past 6 weeks of brutal work had been worth it. Emma looked between them with a child's unsettling perceptiveness. Are you and Ms. Reynolds dating now? Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. Emma. It's okay, Claire said calmly. That's a fair question. She crouched down to Emma's level, her expression serious. Your dad and I care about each other very much. We're trying to figure out what that means. Is that okay with you? Emma considered this gravely. Are you going to be my new mom? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Claire's face went carefully neutral, but Ethan saw the flash of panic in her eyes. Nobody's replacing your mom, Ethan said gently, stepping in. But Ms. Reynolds is our friend, a very good friend, and maybe, eventually, more than that. But we're taking things slow, okay? Okay. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. Can Ms. Reynolds come to my school play next week? We're doing a show about the ocean, and I'm a dolphin. Claire's expression softened. I would love to come to your play. Even though dolphins aren't dinosaurs? Even though I happen to think dolphins are pretty cool too. Emma beamed, then returned to her cereal, crisis apparently averted. Ethan and Claire exchanged a look over her head, part relief, part terror, at how quickly this was all becoming real. After Emma was settled with her morning cartoons, Claire gathered her things. I need to go home and change. I'll meet you at the office at 8:30. Claire, wait. Ethan caught her hand. About last night. I don't regret it, she said immediately. Any of it, do you? No, but we need to talk about how we handle this at work. The Dawson meeting, the team, HR. I know, and we will. But first, let's get through this meeting, one crisis at a time. She squeezed his hand. We can do this, Ethan. We're good together. She meant the pitch, but the words resonated deeper. They were good together. In the hospital, with Emma, working on the campaign. The question was whether the rest of the world would let them be. Claire left, and Ethan got Emma ready for a day with Riley. The babysitter had already agreed to extended hours given the broken arm situation. As he drove to the office, his mind raced through a dozen scenarios for the Dawson meeting. Best case, they loved the pitch and wanted to move forward. Worst case, they decided to go with another agency and this meeting was just a courtesy. Middle case, the most terrifying. They wanted the campaign but had concerns about the team dynamics, about whether Morrison and Associates could actually execute what they'd promised. Claire was already in her office when he arrived, transformed back into the polished executive in a navy suit and heels. But when she saw him, her professional mask slipped just slightly, revealing warmth underneath. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. The Dawson executives arrived at 9 sharp. Richard Dawson, his daughter Jennifer, and the 2 marketing directors whose names Ethan had finally memorized, Marcus Chen and Patricia Okoye. They settled into the conference room with the kind of casual confidence that came from holding all the power. Claire opened with professional pleasantries, but Richard cut through them quickly. Let's talk honestly, he said, leaning forward. We loved your pitch. The authenticity angle, the user-generated content, the emotional resonance, it's exactly what we need. Jennifer here has watched that testimonial video about 15 times. Jennifer nodded. It made me think about our brand completely differently. You captured something our other agencies missed. Hope flared in Ethan's chest, but he kept his expression neutral. There was clearly a but coming. However, Richard continued, we have concerns. This campaign requires a level of ongoing creativity and partnership that goes beyond a typical agency relationship. We need to know that your team can sustain this energy, this vision, for a 3-year contract, that you won't burn out or lose interest once the initial excitement fades. Claire didn't miss a beat. That's a fair concern. What would give you confidence in our sustainability? Marcus Chen spoke up. Honestly, we need to understand the internal dynamics. The pitch was flawless, but it felt heavily dependent on you two specifically. He gestured between Claire and Ethan. What happens if one of you leaves? What's the succession plan? How do we know this isn't just a flash of brilliance that can't be replicated? It was a legitimate business question, but Ethan felt the weight of it. They were asking about stability, about commitment, about whether the team that created the pitch would be the team that executed it. Mr. Cole and I have worked together to build a comprehensive framework, Claire said smoothly. The creative vision extends beyond us individually. We've documented every strategic decision, every creative rationale. The entire senior team understands this campaign at a fundamental level. That's good, Patricia Okoye said. But forgive me for being blunt. What we saw yesterday was chemistry, real partnership. That's not something you can document or hand off. So our question stands. How sustainable is this specific partnership? The room went quiet. Ethan felt Claire's slight tension beside him. This was the moment where they could either be honest or give a corporate answer that sounded good but meant nothing. He decided on honesty. "You're right," Ethan said, and saw Claire's quick glance in his peripheral vision. "What you saw yesterday was chemistry. Ms. Reynolds and I have developed a partnership over the past 6 weeks that brings out the best in both of us. She pushes me creatively. I ground her strategically. It works because we trust each other completely." "And if that partnership dissolved," Richard asked pointedly, "then you'd have every right to reevaluate the contract," Claire said firmly. "But I can promise you this. I've spent 20 years building Morrison & Associates. I don't take commitments lightly. If we enter into this partnership with Dawson, you will have my full dedication and Mr. Cole's creative genius for the duration of the contract. That's not negotiable." Jennifer smiled slightly. "You two finish each other's sentences. Do you realize that?" Ethan and Claire exchanged a look. They'd done it 3 times already in this meeting. "We've spent a lot of time working together," Claire said carefully. "It shows," Richard said, "in a good way. The question is whether that's sustainable or whether it's born from the pressure of the pitch." "It's sustainable," Ethan said with more confidence than he felt. "The respect and trust we've built, that doesn't evaporate. If anything, it gets stronger with time." Richard studied them both for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Good. Because we want to move forward with Morrison & Associates. We're choosing your pitch." The relief that flooded through Ethan was so intense he felt lightheaded. Beside him, Claire's poker face cracked into genuine joy. "However," Richard continued, "we have one condition. We want quarterly check-ins, not just with the account team, but specifically with you two. We're investing in the partnership we saw yesterday. We need to know it remains intact." "Absolutely," Claire said without hesitation. "You'll have our personal commitment to this account." The rest of the meeting dissolved into logistics, timelines, budgets, legal requirements. Ethan participated, but part of his mind was reeling. They'd won. They'd actually won the biggest account in the firm's history, and they'd done it together. When the Dawson executives finally left, promising contracts by end of week, the conference room erupted in celebration. The team poured in, having clearly been waiting anxiously outside. There were hugs and high fives, and someone popped a bottle of champagne that Patricia had apparently been keeping in her desk for exactly this occasion. In the chaos, Claire caught Ethan's eye across the room. She mouthed 2 words. "We did it." He mouthed back, "You're amazing." The celebration moved to a nearby restaurant for an extended lunch that turned into afternoon drinks. Ethan texted Riley to let her know he'd be late, then let himself enjoy the moment. The team was ecstatic, the account was won, and every concern about whether the pitch would land had been definitively answered. Around 4 p.m., Claire stood and clinked her glass for attention. "I want to say something. This win isn't just mine or Ethan's. Every person here contributed something essential. The designers who iterated 100 times, the analytics team who found the insights we built on, the strategists who challenged our assumptions. This is a team victory, and I'm incredibly proud of all of you." She raised her glass. "To Morrison & Associates, and to the hardest-working, most talented team I've ever had the privilege of leading." Everyone drank to that, and Ethan felt a swell of affection for these people he'd worked alongside for 3 years. This was a good place. A good team. He didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that, which made what he and Claire were starting even more complicated. By the time Ethan got home at 6, Emma was waiting for him with Riley, eager to hear about the big meeting. He told her they'd won, simplifying the business details into a story she could understand. "So you and Ms. Reynolds saved the company?" Emma asked, eyes wide. "We helped the company win something important." "That's like being heroes," Riley laughed, gathering her things. "Sounds like congratulations are in order. Emma's been great today. Very careful with her arm." After Riley left, Ethan ordered Chinese food, and he and Emma ate it on the couch while she told him everything she'd learned about dolphins for her upcoming play. He listened, asked questions, helped her practice her lines, and tried not to think about how his life was about to get infinitely more complicated. His phone buzzed around 8. Claire. Can we talk? Not about work. About us. Ethan glanced at Emma, who was absorbed in her script. He typed back, Emma's bedtime is 8:30. Call after? I'll call at 9. The next hour and a half passed in a blur of bedtime routine. Teeth brushing, pajamas, the ongoing saga of the dinosaur documentary they'd been watching in installments. Emma was exhausted from her first full day with the cast and fell asleep almost immediately after Ethan tucked her in. At exactly 9 p.m., his phone rang. Hi, Claire said, and he could hear the nervousness in her voice. Hi yourself. I've been thinking all day about what we're doing, what we started. Me too. Ethan, I need you to know I don't do anything halfway. If we're really trying this, I'm all in, but that means we need to be smart about it. We need rules, boundaries, a plan for how to navigate the professional complications. I agree. So what do you suggest? He heard her take a breath. First, we need to tell HR. Disclose the relationship officially. That protects both of us if anyone ever questions the work dynamics. Okay, when? Tomorrow. I'll set up a meeting with the Director of Human Resources. We'll do it together. She paused. Second, we need to be careful about perception. I can't be seen as giving you preferential treatment, which means I might actually have to be harder on you than other team members, at least publicly. I can handle that. And third, and this is the hardest part, we need to keep it private for a while. Not secret, but private. Let people adjust to the idea gradually rather than making it office gossip. Ethan understood the logic, but something in him resisted. How long is a while? A few weeks? Maybe a month? Just until the Dawson contract is signed and the initial execution plan is in place. Once we prove we can separate personal and professional, it'll be easier. Claire, I don't want to hide this. I don't want to hide you. I don't want to hide either. But I've spent 20 years building credibility in this industry. I need to protect that, for both of us. Her voice softened. This isn't about being ashamed. It's about being strategic. Can you understand that? He could, even if he didn't love it. Okay, we keep it private initially, but we tell HR tomorrow, and we're honest if anyone asks directly. Agreed. And Ethan? About Emma. I meant what I said this morning. I care about her a lot, but I also know I'm not her mother and never will be. I don't want to overstep. You're not overstepping. Emma likes you. More than likes you, actually. She asked this morning if you were going to be her new mom. He heard Claire's sharp intake of breath. What did you tell her? That we're taking things slow. That you're someone important to both of us. That nobody's replacing her mother, but that families can grow in different ways. That was perfect. Thank you. A pause. I'm terrified of disappointing her. Or you. You won't. You don't know that. I know that you stayed at a hospital for 6 hours yesterday when you could have been celebrating the biggest win of your career. I know that you signed Emma's cast with love. I know that you're trying, even though this is completely outside your comfort zone. That's more than enough. He heard her voice catch slightly. I really care about you. Both of you. We care about you too. They talked for another hour, about everything and nothing. Claire told him about her own childhood, lonely and ambitious, raised by parents who valued achievement over affection. Ethan told her about the early days after his divorce, the nights wondering if he was failing Emma, the slow build back to stability. By the time they hung up, it was past 10, and Ethan felt like he understood Claire Reynolds better than he'd understood anyone in years. She wasn't the Ice Queen. She was someone who'd been alone for so long she'd forgotten how to be anything else. Until now. The next morning, Ethan and Claire met with Sandra Kim, Morrison and Associates Director of Human Resources. Sandra was in her 50s, unflappable, and had seen everything in her 20-year career. Let me make sure I understand, Sandra said, looking between them. You're disclosing a romantic relationship that began recently. You want to ensure there are no conflicts of interest, and you're committed to maintaining professional boundaries. Exactly, Claire confirmed. Sandra made notes on her tablet. Claire, as Ethan's direct supervisor, this creates some obvious concerns about favoritism or the appearance thereof. we'll need to implement some safeguards. Such as? Ethan's performance reviews should be conducted by a different senior manager. Any decisions about his compensation, promotion, or role changes should include third-party oversight. And if there are ever any complaints about preferential treatment, we'll need to investigate thoroughly. Understood, Ethan said. We want to do this right. Sandra studied them both. I appreciate you coming forward proactively. Most people try to hide relationships until they blow up spectacularly. This shows maturity. She smiled slightly. For what it's worth, I've watched you two work together on the Dawson pitch. You're good partners. Just make sure you can maintain that if the relationship doesn't work out. It was a sobering thought. If things ended badly, Ethan would still have to work with Claire, still report to her, still collaborate on campaigns. The personal and professional were now inextricably linked. We'll be professional regardless, Claire said firmly. After the HR meeting, they walked back to Claire's office together. In the elevator, Ethan asked the question that had been nagging at him. What if we fail? Not at work. At this. At us. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then we fail. But we fail honestly, trying something real. That's better than spending the rest of our lives wondering what if. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped out into the 12th floor hallway. Claire's hand brushed against his, deliberate and brief. For what it's worth, she said softly, I don't think we're going to fail. Over the next 2 weeks, they settled into a new rhythm. At work, they remained scrupulously professional. No overt affection, no special treatment, nothing that would raise eyebrows. But after hours, Claire became a fixture in Ethan's life. She came to Emma's dolphin play and sat in the audience, beaming with pride. She learned to make pancakes on Saturday mornings, though hers were never quite as good as Ethan's. She helped Emma with homework and listened to endless dinosaur facts with genuine interest, and slowly, carefully, she started telling people. First her assistant, Patricia, who'd raised an eyebrow and said, "About time." Then a few senior colleagues. Then, gradually, the rest of the team. The reactions varied. Most people were supportive, some were surprised, a few were skeptical. But nobody questioned their work quality, because the Dawson account was already showing results. The initial campaign launch was tracking ahead of projections. Client satisfaction was at an all-time high. They'd proven they could be both partners and professionals. One Friday evening, 3 weeks after the Dawson win, Ethan was working late when Claire appeared in his office doorway. Emma's with Riley tonight, right? She asked. Yeah, sleepover at her friend's house. Why? Because I'm taking you to dinner. A real date. No work talk, no dinosaur facts, just us. Ethan saved his work and stood. Where are we going? It's a surprise. She drove them to a small Italian restaurant in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. They sat in a corner booth, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan saw Claire completely relaxed. I love Emma, she said over wine and pasta, but it's nice to have you to myself for a few hours. Agreed, though I give it 20 minutes before one of us mentions her. I give it 10. They made it 7 minutes before Ethan told a story about Emma's latest dinosaur theory, and they both laughed at their complete inability to separate that part of his life from this new part they were building. I never thought I'd be here, Claire admitted. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be dating an employee, having dinner discussions about 8-year-old girls and their dinosaur obsessions, and actually being happy about it, I would have laughed. What changed? You. Emma. The way you made me see that life could be more than just work and achievement and proving I'm good enough. She reached across the table and took his hand. I spent 20 years building a career that looks perfect from the outside. But I was miserable, Ethan. I just didn't know it because I had nothing to compare it to. And now? Now I have Sunday morning pancakes and school plays and someone who makes me laugh. I have a reason to leave the office at 6 instead of 9. I have people who care about me, not my job title. She squeezed his hand. I have a family, maybe not in the traditional sense, but a family nonetheless. Ethan felt his throat tighten. We're lucky to have you too. They finished dinner and drove back to Ethan's apartment. It was the first time they'd had the place entirely to themselves, and the awareness hung between them as Ethan unlocked the door. Coffee? He offered, suddenly nervous. Sure. He made coffee they barely touched, and they sat on the couch talking about everything, their childhoods, their fears, their dreams for the future. And when Claire kissed him, it was different from that first tentative kiss in his apartment weeks ago. This was confident, certain, a promise of something lasting. "Stay," Ethan whispered against her lips. "Emma won't be home until tomorrow afternoon." Claire pulled back slightly, searching his face. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." They moved to his bedroom, taking their time, learning each other with a tenderness that made Ethan's chest ache. This wasn't just attraction or chemistry. This was intimacy built on trust and respect and genuine affection. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the dark, and Claire traced patterns on his chest with her fingertips. "I love you," she said quietly. "I know it's too soon to say that, but I do." Ethan pulled her closer. "It's not too soon. I love you too." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and when Ethan woke in the morning to find Claire still there, sleep-rumpled and beautiful in his old t-shirt, he felt something settle in his chest. This was real. This was lasting. This was worth every complication and risk. Claire opened her eyes and smiled. "Morning." "Morning. Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in years." She stretched, cat-like. "What time do we pick up Emma?" "Not until 2. We have time." "Good, because I'm thinking pancakes, and I want to try to make them without burning them this time." They spent the morning in domestic bliss, cooking together, reading the paper, existing in comfortable silence. When they picked up Emma that afternoon, she took one look at them and grinned. "You look happy," she announced. "We are," Ethan confirmed. "Good. You should always look this happy." As they drove home, Emma chattering in the back seat about her sleepover adventures, Claire reached over and took Ethan's hand. He glanced at her, saw the contentment on her face, and realized something profound. The awkward moment at the nightclub entrance that had seemed like a catastrophe had actually been the beginning of everything good in his life now. Without that embarrassment, without that forced proximity on the Dawson pitch, he and Claire might never have really seen each other. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes what looked like disaster was actually destiny doing its work. And sometimes, Ethan thought as he pulled into his parking spot with his daughter and the woman he loved, everything worked out exactly as it should. 3 months into the Dawson campaign, the cracks started showing. Not in the work itself. The campaign was performing beyond everyone's wildest projections. Sales were up 18%. Brand perception had shifted from reliable but boring to authentic and trustworthy. And Richard Dawson himself had called Claire personally to say it was the best marketing investment his company had ever made. No, the cracks were in the carefully constructed wall between Ethan and Claire's professional and personal lives. It started small. A colleague noticed them arriving together 3 mornings in a row. Another commented on the way Claire smiled when Ethan spoke in meetings. Patricia, Claire's assistant, made a pointed remark about how Ms. Reynolds seemed much happier these days while looking directly at Ethan. The office gossip mill, which had been mercifully quiet for weeks, roared back to life. Ethan first became aware of it when he overheard 2 junior copywriters in the break room. "I'm just saying, it's convenient that Ethan got led on the biggest account right after they started dating." They weren't dating when she assigned him. That was before. "How do you know?" Maybe it was going on longer than they're admitting. Ethan had walked away, his jaw clenched, but the conversation ate at him all day. That evening, after Emma was asleep, he called Claire. "People are talking," he said without preamble. "I know. Patricia mentioned it this afternoon." Claire's voice was tired. "What are they saying?" "That you're showing me favoritism, that I didn't earn the Dawson account." Silence on the other end. Then, "Do you believe that?" "Of course not. But it doesn't matter what I believe if everyone else thinks it's true." "Ethan, we've followed every protocol. HR knows. We've implemented safeguards. Your performance reviews are done by David, not me. We've done everything right. Everything except control how it looks." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Claire, I don't want people questioning your judgment or my abilities because we're together." "Then what do you suggest?" The question hung heavy between them. What could they do? Stop dating? Impossible. Ethan was in too deep, and he knew Claire was too. "Request a transfer?" That would hurt both the Dawson account and their relationship. Ignore the gossip? That seemed naive. I don't know, Ethan admitted. I just know that I hate feeling like I'm damaging your reputation. You're not damaging anything. People talk. That's what they do. But our work speaks for itself. Her voice softened. Don't let other people's opinions make you doubt what we have. She was right, logically, but logic didn't stop the whispers or the sidelong glances in the office. The situation came to a head 2 weeks later during a company-wide meeting. Claire was presenting quarterly results. Stellar numbers across the board, with the Dawson account as the crown jewel. She'd just finished explaining their expansion strategy when someone from the back row raised a hand. Marcus Webb, a senior account manager who'd been with the firm for a decade and had never gotten the kind of opportunities Ethan had received in 3 years. Question, Marcus said, his tone pleasant but his eyes sharp. The Dawson success is obviously significant, but I'm curious about the team composition. How did you decide who to put on that pitch team? What were the selection criteria? Claire's expression didn't change, but Ethan, sitting in the third row, saw the slight tension in her shoulders. She knew exactly what Marcus was really asking. I selected team members based on their relevant experience, creative strength, and proven ability to work under pressure, Claire replied smoothly. Each person brought specific skills necessary for the campaign's success. And personal relationships didn't factor into those decisions at all? The room went very quiet. Ethan felt every eye turn toward him. Claire's voice, when she spoke, was ice cold. Are you implying something, Marcus? I'm just asking for clarification on the selection process. Several of us have wondered why certain people get certain opportunities. Marcus shrugged, the picture of innocence. It's a reasonable question. It's an inappropriate question with an inappropriate insinuation. Claire stepped away from the podium, facing Marcus directly. If you have concerns about team assignments, you're welcome to schedule a meeting with me in HR. But I won't dignify baseless speculation about my professional integrity in a company-wide forum. Marcus had the grace to look slightly abashed. I didn't mean to suggest— Yes, you did, and for the record, everyone in this room knows that Mr. Cole earned his position on the Dawson team through 3 years of exceptional work. His campaign concepts have won awards. His client retention rate is the highest in his department. He was the obvious choice, and the results have proven that decision correct. She paused, letting that sink in. Are there any other questions about actual business matters? The meeting ended shortly after, tension crackling through the air. Ethan wanted to go to Claire's office immediately, but he forced himself to return to his desk, to act like everything was normal. An hour later, his phone buzzed. Claire. My office, please. He found her standing by her window, arms crossed, staring out at the city. She didn't turn when he entered. Close the door, she said quietly. He did, then waited. That was a disaster, Claire finally said. I handled it poorly. I should have stayed calm, redirected, maintained control. Instead, I got defensive and made it worse. You defended me, and yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. There's everything wrong with it if it makes people think their suspicions are confirmed. She turned to face him, and Ethan was startled to see tears in her eyes. I've spent my entire career building credibility, and in 3 minutes, Marcus Webb managed to plant doubt in everyone's minds. He planted doubt because he's jealous and petty. Everyone knows that. Do they? Or do they wonder if maybe he has a point? Claire wiped at her eyes angrily. I'm 42 years old, and I'm crying in my office over office politics. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Ethan crossed the room and took her hands. Claire, look at me. You are the most talented, hardworking, ethical person I've ever known. You earned every success you've ever had. And yes, we're together, and yes, that complicates things. But you chose me for Dawson because I was the best person for the job. The campaign's success proves that. But how do I prove it to them? How do I prove that I'm not compromised? Maybe you don't. Maybe we stop trying to prove anything and just let our work speak for itself. Claire pulled her hands away, walking back to her desk. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one whose leadership is being questioned. The words stung, more than Ethan expected. You're right. I'm just the one whose competence is being questioned, the one people think slept his way to a promotion. That's not what I meant, isn't it? Ethan felt frustration rising. You're so worried about your reputation that you're not seeing how this affects me too. Every success I have now, people will attribute to you. Every failure will be evidence that you made a mistake choosing me. I can't win either way. They stared at each other across her desk, the distance feeling like miles instead of feet. I don't know how to fix this, Claire said finally, her voice small. Neither do I. Ethan left her office feeling worse than when he'd entered. That night, he picked up Emma from school and went through the motions of homework and dinner, but his mind was elsewhere. Emma noticed, of course. Is Ms. Reynolds coming over tonight? I don't think so, sweetie. She's busy with work. Are you guys fighting? No, just working through something complicated. Emma frowned, pushing her broccoli around her plate. Sarah's parents fight sometimes, then they make up, and everything's okay again. It's a little different when you're adults. Why? Why indeed? Ethan didn't have a good answer for that. His phone buzzed later that evening. Not Claire. David Chen, the senior manager who'd taken over Ethan's performance reviews. Can we talk tomorrow? Not urgent, but worth discussing. Ethan's stomach sank. He replied, confirming a time, then spent the rest of the night imagining worst-case scenarios. David's office the next morning was neat and organized, much like the man himself. He gestured for Ethan to sit. I wanted to touch base about yesterday's meeting, David began. I know it was uncomfortable. That's one word for it. Marcus was out of line, but he also, unfortunately, voiced what some people are thinking. David leaned back in his chair. I want to be straight with you, Ethan. Your work is excellent, genuinely exceptional, but the optics of your relationship with Claire are creating complications. We've followed every HR protocol. I know you have. This isn't about rule breaking, it's about perception. And perception affects team morale, client confidence, and your own career trajectory. David paused. Have you considered requesting a lateral transfer? Not a demotion, just a move to a different team where Claire isn't your direct supervisor? Ethan's first instinct was to refuse, but he forced himself to actually consider it. Would that help? It would eliminate the direct conflict of interest. You'd still work here, still contribute to major accounts, but the appearance of favoritism would be gone. And the Dawson account? You'd transition off after the initial campaign phase is complete. Someone else would handle ongoing management. David's expression was sympathetic. I know that's not ideal, but it might be the cleanest solution. Ethan spent the rest of the day turning it over in his mind. A transfer would solve the professional problems, but it would also feel like admitting defeat, like letting office gossip dictate his career. That evening, Claire came over for dinner, their first time seeing each other outside the office since the meeting. Emma was thrilled, chattering about her upcoming field trip to the aquarium, blissfully unaware of the tension between the adults. After Emma went to bed, Ethan told Claire about his conversation with David. A transfer, she repeated, her voice carefully neutral. And you're considering it? I don't want to, but maybe it's the right thing to do. For both of us. Claire was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. So we let them win. We let Marcus and everyone like him dictate our choices. It's not about winning or losing. It's about finding a solution that works. A solution that works for whom, Ethan? Not for us. Not for the Dawson account. Not for your career. She stood, pacing the small living room. You're talented enough to lead accounts on your own. A transfer would be lateral on paper, but everyone would know what it really meant. That you were moved because of me. Maybe. Or maybe it's a fresh start where I can prove myself without the shadow of our relationship. You shouldn't have to prove yourself. You've already done that. Have I? Or have you done it for me by giving me opportunities? The question came out harsher than he'd intended. Claire flinched. Is that what you really think? She asked quietly. That you didn't earn any of this? I don't know what I think anymore. A month ago, I was confident in my abilities. Now I second-guess every success, wondering if it's real or just nepotism. Claire sat back down, her shoulders slumping. I've ruined this for you, your confidence, your career trajectory, everything. You haven't ruined anything. We're just facing consequences we didn't fully anticipate. So what do we do? It was the same question they'd been dancing around for weeks, and Ethan finally had an answer. Not a perfect one, but an honest one. "We take control of the narrative," he said. "We stop being reactive and start being proactive." "What does that mean?" "It means I request the transfer, but on my terms. Not as punishment or admission of wrongdoing, but as a strategic move to expand my experience. I lead my own accounts, build my own reputation separate from you." "And us?" "We stay together, but we prove that our relationship doesn't compromise our work, that we can both thrive independently while supporting each other personally." Claire searched his face. "That's going to be hard. Harder than what we're doing now." "I know, but the alternative is letting resentment build until it destroys what we have. I'd rather fight for this relationship than watch it crumble under the weight of other people's opinions." She reached for his hand. "I love you, and I love that you're willing to fight for us. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise that if this transfer feels like the wrong choice, if it's hurting your career instead of helping it, you'll tell me. We'll find another solution. I won't let you sacrifice your future for us. I promise." "But Claire, I need you to promise something too." "What?" "That you'll stop carrying the weight of this alone. We're partners. Whatever happens, we face it together." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I'm not used to having a partner. I'm used to fixing everything myself." "I know, but you don't have to anymore." They held each other on the couch, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt like they might actually navigate this successfully. The next morning, Ethan requested a meeting with Claire and David to officially discuss the transfer. They agreed on a plan. Ethan would transition to the new business development team after completing the initial Dawson campaign phase. He'd lead pitches for new accounts, building his own client portfolio. It was announced at the following week's team meeting. The reactions were mixed, some relief, some confusion, some obvious satisfaction from people like Marcus, who saw it as vindication. Ethan held his head high and focused on the work. The transition period was brutal. He was simultaneously wrapping up Dawson deliverables and preparing for 3 new pitches. His days stretched to 14 hours, and he barely saw Claire except in professional settings. Emma noticed the change. "You're tired all the time again," she observed one night at dinner. "Just temporarily, sweetheart. Things will settle down soon." "And Miss Reynolds? I miss having her here." "She's busy too, but we'll plan something soon, maybe this weekend?" But the weekend came and Claire had to fly to New York for a client emergency. The following weekend, Ethan was preparing for a pitch. They were like ships passing in the night, texting more than talking, their relationship reduced to stolen moments and rain-check promises. 4 weeks into the new arrangement, Ethan landed his first independent account, a mid-sized tech company looking to rebrand. It was exactly the kind of opportunity he needed to prove himself. He threw himself into it with everything he had, pulling late nights, pushing creative boundaries. And when he presented to the client, he did it alone. No Claire to back him up, no safety net. The client loved it, signed the contract on the spot. Ethan called Claire immediately. "I got it. The Technovate account is ours." Her joy was audible. "I knew you would. I'm so proud of you." "Can I see you tonight? Celebrate properly?" "I wish I could. I'm stuck in this strategy session until at least 9. Tomorrow then?" "Tomorrow I have the Dawson quarterly review. But this weekend, no excuses, no work, just us and Emma." "It's a date." But Ethan hung up feeling hollow. They'd gone from spending almost every evening together to scheduling weekends weeks in advance. The transfer had solved the professional complications, but it was creating new personal ones. That Friday evening, Ethan was picking Emma up from school when he ran into Sarah's mother, Jennifer, in the parking lot. "How's the broken arm healing?" Jennifer asked, gesturing to Emma's cast, now covered in signatures and doodles. "Really well. 2 more weeks and it comes off." "Good. Hey, I meant to ask, Sarah keeps talking about Emma's new mom. I wanted to make sure we had the right terminology before the aquarium field trip next week." Ethan's heart stuttered. Her new mom? The woman who came to the dolphin play? Sarah said Emma called her. Jennifer pulled out her phone, checking a text. "Miss Reynolds? Said she was Emma's new mom?" "Oh, no, that's... Claire's my girlfriend, but she's not Emma's mom. Emma's mom isn't in the picture, but Claire's not replacing her." Jennifer's expression shifted to concern. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overstep. It's just that Sarah was so certain. She said Emma told her that Ms. Reynolds was going to be her new family. After they parted, Ethan sat in the car with Emma and asked gently, "Sweetheart, have you been telling your friends that Ms. Reynolds is your new mom?" Emma's face flushed. "Not new mom exactly, just I told Sarah that Ms. Reynolds is like a mom because she does mom things. She helps with homework and comes to my plays and makes pancakes." "But you understand that Claire isn't actually your mom, right? Your real mom is—" "I know where my real mom is," Emma interrupted, her voice suddenly sharp. "She's wherever she went when I was a baby, and she doesn't want to be my mom, but Ms. Reynolds does want to be here, so why can't she be my mom too?" The question broke Ethan's heart. He pulled Emma into a hug, feeling her small body shake with tears she'd been holding back. "Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you felt this way. I just want a normal family, like Sarah has, a mom and a dad, and someone who comes to school things. Claire does come to school things, but she's not always there anymore. She's busy, just like you're always busy now." Emma pulled away, wiping her eyes. "Everything's changed, and I don't like it." That night, after Emma was asleep, Ethan texted Claire, "We need to talk, really talk. Something's wrong, and we need to fix it." They met the next morning at a coffee shop, neutral territory where they could be honest without the pressure of work or home. Claire looked exhausted. Ethan suspected he looked the same. "Emma thinks you're abandoning her," he said without preamble. "She's been telling her friends you're her new mom, but she's also noticed that you're around less. She's confused and hurt." Claire's face crumpled. "I never meant— I thought giving you space to establish your new role was the right thing." "It was, for work. But Emma doesn't understand work politics. She just knows that you used to be there for dinner most nights and now you're not. So what do I do?" "I don't know. But we need to figure something out because this isn't working. We're losing what made us good together, the time, the connection, the actual relationship part of our relationship." Claire wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, staring into it like it held answers. "I'm terrified of messing this up. With you, with Emma. I've never been someone's partner or someone's parental figure. I don't know how to balance it." "Neither do I. But we have to try." Ethan reached across the table. "Claire, I love you. Emma loves you. But love isn't enough if we're not actually present in each other's lives." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to make changes, real ones. Maybe I dial back the late nights. Maybe you protect more family time. Maybe we stop trying to prove things to other people and start prioritizing us. But your new accounts can be managed in reasonable hours. I was overcompensating, trying to prove I didn't need you professionally. But I do need you, Claire, just not as my boss, as my partner, as someone who shows up for Emma's school events and makes terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings." A tear rolled down Claire's cheek. "I miss those mornings." "So do I. So does Emma." They sat in silence, both crying now, both realizing how close they'd come to losing everything that mattered while trying to protect their careers. "I want to fix this," Claire said finally. "Tell me how. Come to dinner tonight, and tomorrow night, and every night this week. Let's go back to basics, being together, being present. The office will survive." "Okay." "And Emma's aquarium field trip next week? Take the afternoon off, be there. Show her she matters more than any client meeting." "I will. I promise." "And Claire, stop being afraid of being important to us. You already are. Lean into it instead of running from it." That evening, Claire showed up at Ethan's apartment at 6 with Chinese takeout and a genuine smile. Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. "You're here. I'm here. And I'm sorry I've been gone so much. Work got crazy and I forgot what's really important." Emma hugged her tight. "You're really important, to me and Daddy. You're important to me too, sweetheart. So important that I cleared my schedule for your field trip next week. I wouldn't miss it." Over dinner, they talked about everything. Emma's upcoming cast removal, the new account Ethan was developing, Claire's idea for expanding the Dawson relationship. It felt natural again, easy, like coming home. After Emma went to bed, Ethan and Claire sat on the couch, finally able to breathe. "I almost lost this, Claire said softly. Us. Because I was so afraid of failing that I created the exact situation I feared. We both did. I was so focused on proving myself independently that I forgot we're stronger together. So how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Ethan thought for a moment. We make rules. Real ones. Like Wednesday nights are always family dinners. No exceptions. Sundays are for pancakes and no work emails, and we check in honestly every week about how we're feeling. I like that. Structure, boundaries, intentionality. And we give Emma the stability she needs. She's 8 years old and she's already lost one parent. We can't let our careers make her feel like she's losing us too. Claire nodded, then took a deep breath. I want to be more than your girlfriend, Ethan. I want to be a real part of Emma's life, not replacing her mother, but being someone she can count on. Is that okay? Are you asking if you can be her parental figure? I'm asking if I can be her family. Officially. Ethan's heart swelled. Claire Reynolds, are you saying you want to be Emma's co-parent? I'm saying I already love her like she's mine, and if you'll let me, I want to make that official somehow, not legally, necessarily, but in the ways that matter. She would love that. I would love that. They kissed, and this time it felt different. Not just romantic, but like a promise of the future they were building together. Over the following months, things settled into a new rhythm. Ethan's independent accounts flourished, proving his talent had nothing to do with Claire's influence. Claire maintained her excellence while actually leaving the office at reasonable hours, and Emma got the stability and love she desperately needed from two people who showed up consistently. The office gossip faded as people saw that Ethan and Claire's relationship didn't compromise their work. If anything, it enhanced it. They brought different perspectives to strategy sessions, challenged each other constructively, and demonstrated that professional and personal success could coexist. On the 6-month anniversary of the Dawson account launch, Richard Dawson himself called for a celebration dinner. He invited Ethan, Claire, and the core team to his private club. During the meal, Richard raised his glass. I want to toast the partnership that made this campaign possible. Claire, your strategic vision transformed how we think about our brand. Ethan, your creative genius gave it life. Together, you've given Dawson Industries something priceless, authenticity, and I'm pleased to announce we're expanding the contract for another 5 years. The table erupted in celebration, but afterward, Richard pulled Claire and Ethan aside. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I knew you two were together from the first pitch meeting. The chemistry was obvious. Claire blinked. And that didn't concern you? On the contrary, it reassured me, because I've learned that the best work comes from people who genuinely care about each other, who push each other to be better. What you have, that partnership, it's rare. Don't let anyone make you apologize for it. On the drive home, Claire was quiet. He knew, from the beginning, and he chose us anyway, Ethan pointed out, because the work was good, because we were honest. She smiled. We spent so much time worrying about perception when we should have just focused on being excellent. Lesson learned. That weekend, they took Emma to the Natural History Museum for the dinosaur exhibit she'd been begging to see. As they wandered through displays of fossilized bones and prehistoric landscapes, Emma held both their hands, swinging between them. This is my favorite day ever, she announced. Even better than the aquarium field trip, Claire teased. That was amazing too. But this is better because we're all together and nobody has to leave for work. Later, while Emma was engrossed in a display about pterodactyls, Ethan and Claire stood watching her, their fingers intertwined. A year ago, I didn't know you existed beyond the Ice Queen boss who scared everyone, Ethan said softly. Now I can't imagine my life without you. A year ago, I thought success meant career achievements and corner offices. Now I know it means Sunday pancakes and 8-year-olds who teach you about dinosaurs. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you for showing me what I was missing. Thank you for being brave enough to try something new. I know it wasn't easy. Best decision I ever made. Emma ran back to them, eyes bright with excitement. Did you know that some dinosaurs had hollow bones like birds? That's so cool. Claire scooped her up, making Emma giggle. Tell me everything. I want to hear all 47 dinosaur names again. As they walked through the museum together, talking, laughing, completely absorbed in each other, Ethan felt a profound sense of peace. This was his family now. Not traditional, not what he'd imagined when he'd first become a father, but perfect in its own imperfect way. That night, after Emma was asleep, Claire stayed over. A common occurrence now that no longer felt scandalous, just natural. They sat on the couch with glasses of wine, her head on his shoulder. "I've been thinking," Claire said, "about the future." "What about it?" "About making this permanent. Not just dating, but building something lasting." Ethan's heart quickened. "What are you saying?" Claire sat up, turning to face him. "I'm saying that I want to wake up in this apartment every morning. I want to be here for Emma's homework and your terrible jokes and the chaos of real life. I'm saying I want to stop having a separate apartment I barely use and just be here, with you both." "Claire Reynolds, are you asking to move in with us?" "I'm asking if you'll let me be part of this family. Really part of it. Not a visitor or a girlfriend who comes over, but someone who belongs here." Ethan cupped her face in his hands. "You already belong here. You have since the first night you stayed for dinner and listened to Emma talk about dinosaurs for 2 hours. This has been your home since the moment you chose us over work." "So is that a yes?" "That's an absolutely, definitely, 100% yes." They kissed, and it tasted like promises and possibilities, and a future that looked nothing like either of them had planned, but everything like what they both needed. The next morning, they told Emma together. "So Miss Reynolds is going to live here?" Emma asked, processing the news. "If that's okay with you," Claire said. "I know it's a big change." Emma was quiet for a moment, her 8-year-old brain working through the implications. Then she smiled, that gap-toothed smile that could light up a room. "Does this mean pancakes every Sunday? Not just sometimes?" Claire laughed. "Every Sunday, I promise. And you'll help with my homework even when it's hard?" "Especially when it's hard. And you'll come to my school things and parent-teacher conferences and stuff?" "Every single one." Emma looked at Ethan, then back at Claire. "Then, yes, I want you to live here, because you're already part of our family anyway. Now it'll just be official." Claire's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Emma into a fierce hug, and Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them, his heart so full it hurt. This was it. This was the family he'd never known he could have. Built from an awkward moment outside a nightclub, forged through professional challenges and personal growth, cemented by love and commitment and the daily choice to show up for each other. 6 months later, Claire's name was on the lease. Emma's teacher knew to call both Ethan and Claire for school issues. The three of them had inside jokes and traditions, and the comfortable shorthand of people who'd built a life together. The office had long since moved on to new gossip. Ethan's independent client portfolio was thriving. Claire had been promoted to senior managing director, and the Dawson account was still performing beyond expectations, a testament to what could be achieved when talented people supported each other instead of competing. On a random Tuesday evening, nothing special, just a regular weeknight, Ethan found himself doing dishes while Claire helped Emma with math homework at the kitchen table. He could hear them discussing fractions, Claire explaining patiently while Emma made exasperated noises about why math had to be so complicated. "But Ms. Claire," Emma said, she'd dropped the Reynolds months ago, "when am I ever going to need to know what 3/8 plus 5/8 equals? When you're measuring ingredients for baking, or splitting something fairly between friends, or calculating percentages at your future job. I'm going to be a paleontologist. Do paleontologists need fractions?" "Absolutely. How else will you calculate the age of fossils or the proportion of different bone types in a skeleton?" Emma considered this. "Okay, fine, but I still think fractions are weird." Ethan smiled, watching them in the reflection of the kitchen window. This was happiness. Not the dramatic movie-style happiness with grand gestures and sweeping music, just the quiet contentment of coming home to people who loved you, of being part of something bigger than yourself, of building a life one ordinary day at a time. Claire looked up and caught his eye, smiling that smile she reserved just for him. The smile that said she knew exactly how lucky they were, how close they'd come to missing this, how grateful she was for the nightclub accident that had started everything. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Just that I love you, both of you, and I'm really glad you broke a dress strap outside a nightclub a year ago." Emma looked up, confused. "What?" "Long story, dinosaur girl. I'll tell you when you're older." "You always say that, and I always mean it." Later that night, after Emma was asleep and they were getting ready for bed themselves, Claire came up behind Ethan and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "The complications, the gossip, the professional challenges?" Ethan turned in her arms. "Not for a single second." "You?" "Never. You and Emma, you're the best thing that ever happened to me, better than any promotion or account win or professional success. You taught me what actually matters." We taught each other. They stood there in their shared bedroom, in their shared home, their shared life, and Ethan marveled at how a single moment of embarrassment had led to this. How looking away when he should have, encountering his boss in the worst possible circumstance, had somehow resulted in the best possible outcome. Life was strange like that. The moments you thought would destroy you sometimes turned out to be the ones that saved you. The people you thought you could never be with sometimes turned out to be exactly who you needed. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, an awkward encounter outside a nightclub at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday night led to Sunday morning pancakes, homework help at the kitchen table, and a family built on love, trust, and the courage to take a chance on something imperfect and real and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Ethan Cole had spent 8 years as a single father, convinced that was his story. Him and Emma against the world. He'd never imagined room for anyone else, never thought his heart had space for the kind of love that made you vulnerable and brave in equal measure. But Claire Reynolds, with her ice queen facade and her hidden warmth, had proven him wrong. She'd shown him that family could grow, that love could be found in unexpected places, that the best things in life often came from the moments that seemed like disasters. As Ethan drifted off to sleep that night, Claire's hand in his, he thought about everything they'd been through. The pitch, the hospital, the office politics, the fear and doubt and eventual triumph. Every challenge had made them stronger, every obstacle had brought them closer, and every single moment, the good and the bad, the professional and the personal, the chaos and the peace, had been worth it. Because at the end of the day, they had what mattered most, each other, Emma, and a future full of possibilities they were building together, one imperfect, beautiful day at a time.